All right, here we go. Finally putting all this stuff into practice, and here's why we've had those first three videos. So we've got sine of 15 degrees, and got to figure out how can we get there. We want the exact value. So not just plugging it in the calculator and find the decimal, but we want to know exactly what this is. So this would be something for your non-calculator portion. Want to just remind you real quickly that we've got two different types of triangles that we're used to seeing. And we've got our 30, 60, 90 right triangle, where opposite the 30 is our 1/2. Opposite 60 is square root of 3 over 2, and the hypotenuse being 1. With our 45, 45, 90 right triangle, we've got 45 and 45. Our hypotenuse again being 1, and the legs being the square root of 2 over 2 and the square root of 2 over 2. Now we'll be using those values to help us as we go along. And so let's start. So sine of 15 degrees. So we can write that as the sine of, well, that's going to be the same thing as the sine of 45 degrees minus 30 degrees. That's just one way you could write it. You could write it quite a few other ways, as we talked about in those previous videos. You could, a bunch of different ways you can write that one out. 150 minus 135, 135 minus 120, so on and so forth. But we'll go ahead and stick with 45 degrees minus 30 degrees. Now, this is sine, and so we learned that with sine of a plus b is going to give us sine a times cosine b plus sine b cosine a. All right, and let's plug all those values in. So this is going to be the same thing as, let me clean that up a little bit. That'll be equivalent to the sine of, what's our first angle? Sine of 45 degrees times the cosine of, times the cosine of 30 degrees. Plus, minus rather, because we're subtracting right here. This is minus. So minus the sine of 30 degrees, so of that second angle there, times the cosine of 45 degrees. All right, sine of the first angle times cosine of the second, minus sine of the second angle times cosine of the first. And now what are all these equivalencies? So sine of 45 degrees, that's our y value. So sine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. So we'll put it in green here. So sine of 45 over 2, 45 is square root of 2 over 2. So that times, and here we have, let's go with purplish. Cosine of 30 degrees is going to be square root of 3 over 2. So times the square root of 3 over 2 minus and then sine of 30 degrees, that's going to be 1/2. And cosine of 45, that is the square root of 2 over 2. All right, and okay, gonna run out of room here a little bit, so we move over. This is going to give us, to multiply it out, we've got the square root of 6 over 4 minus the square root of 2, also over 4. So square root of 3 times square root of 2 gives the square root of 6. 2 times 2 is 4, minus 1 times square root of 2 is square root of 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. Subtract these, and we have the square root of, a square root of 6 minus the square root of 2 all over 4. And there's our final answer. All right, so notice the process we went through here. The figuring out how to write the given problem, sine of 15 degrees, in terms of the sum or difference of two angles. And so, hey, that's going to be the sine of 45 minus 30, because if we were working through our parentheses, we'd do parentheses first. That would get us back to 15 degrees. Now, we were able to break this down into some its smaller pieces to what it's equivalent to, into pieces that we knew and we could actually plug in and evaluate. So, hope that process makes sense. Please pause the video and come back and try the next few after you've tried them. So yeah, good. Again, please do pause and then come back after you've tried them. All right, so I hope that you have in fact paused, and we'll try to go through a few more before I make the video too long. So cosine of 105 degrees, I'm going to write that as, that is the cosine of, let's do 45 degrees plus 60 degrees. Those will be equivalent. And so that's going to be, now using our cosine, so we've got cosine of A plus B gives us the cosine of A plus, or sorry, times cosine B minus, remember cosine is going to be the opposite of the one inside the parentheses, minus sine A times sine B. All right, so plugging in those values, we get, what is that? So cosine of 45 degrees times cosine of 60 degrees minus sine of 45 degrees times sine of 60 degrees. All right, substituting those values going through your triangle. So where would cosine of 45, that would be the, let's see, cosine of 45, that's going to be square root of 2 over 2. Square root of 2 over 2 times cosine of 60, that's going to be 1/2. So there's that piece there, minus, now sine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2 times sine of 60, and that's going to be the square root of 3 over 2. Multiply them out, and we've got square root of 2 over 4 minus square root of 6 over 4, and that put it all together as our final answer there. Square root of 2 minus the square root of 6 all over 4. All right, we'll go ahead and come back and do the radian problems in the next, or actually, we'll do C and then do D and E in the next video. So here's C. All right, so this time we've got radians, but sine, this is going to be equivalent to sine of, let's see, how do we want to get 11/12? So we know 3/12 and 8/12, we know their equivalencies, and so 3 pi over 12, remember that's pi over 4, and then 8 pi over 12, remember that's 2/3 pi. We know each of those equivalencies, so that is, to write it out more explicitly, that's going to be the sine of, oops, let me get rid of that first parentheses there, the sine of pi over 4 plus 2/3 pi, 2 pi over 3. All right, converting those into their side lengths or into their ratios, and we've got, let's put it into the formula first, sorry. So when it's sine, we're going to keep that addition sign, and so sine of A times cosine B. So sine of pi over 4 times cosine of 2/3 pi plus sine of 2/3 pi times cosine of pi over 4. Okay. Changing those into the ratios, we are going to get, what is sine of pi over 4? That's going to be square root of 2 over 2 times cosine of 2/3 pi, that's negative 1/2, plus, so that's our first section right there, plus sine of 2/3 pi, that's going to be square root of 3 over 2 times cosine of, get parentheses around all these, times square root of 2 over 2. Multiplying it all out, we have the square root of 2 over 4, or negative square root of 2 over 4, plus square root of 6 over 4, giving us negative square root of 2 plus square root of 6 all over 4. All right, hope that made a little bit of sense. In the next video, as you can see, the next problems deal with kind of working our way backwards, and we'll go through those in just a moment. All right, hope that helps.